Tycoon left his pregnant wife on the hospital floor. 3 years later, saw her smiling on stage with triplets. The city lights shimmered outside the glass walls of the penthouse, casting a soft glow over the cold marble floors and the polished silence that filled the space. It was a home fit for a king, luxurious, modern, flawless. But behind the golden door, where wealth whispered from every corner, lived a woman whose heart had grown accustomed to silence. Jaiwoo sat by the window, hands folded on her lap, eyes fixed on the night sky. She looked fragile, almost like porcelain under the moonlight, but there was a quiet resilience in the way she held herself. Her soft black hair was pinned neatly, and her delicate figure was wrapped in a simple but elegant ivory dress. Not designer, not branded, just something she felt comfortable in. Her beauty was the kind that didn't demand attention. It whispered instead, but no one was listening. Behind her, the distant sound of a door unlocking echoed through the grand hallway. She didn't turn around. She knew that walk, the quiet but firm steps, that faint cologne. Her heart still responded every time, as if it hadn't learned after all these years. "Min-jae, you're home early." The words were gentle, filled with a cautious warmth, but no reply came. Min-jae walked past her, straight to the kitchen. His tailored suit was still flawless, his presence heavy with power. He poured himself a glass of water, the clink of ice loud in the silence. Jaiwoo turned slowly, watching him. "I made dinner," she tried again, her voice softer now. "Your favorite soy-braised short ribs." He finally looked at her, but only briefly. His eyes, once warm in the earliest days of their marriage, now looked through her. "I ate at the office," he said flatly. A silence fell between them again, long and thick. Jaiwoo nodded, standing slowly. "Of course." She took the dishes from the dining table and quietly brought them back to the kitchen. Her movements practiced, precise. Not once did she sigh. Not once did she cry. It wasn't new. In this house, Jaiwoo had become invisible. 3 years ago, their wedding had made headlines. Tycoon marries former housekeeper in private ceremony. The tabloids had exploded. Everyone assumed it was a scandal, convenience, a whim, and maybe it was. Min-jae never said he loved her. He had made that clear on the first day. "You will have my name. You'll never lack anything. But don't expect love from me," he had said that night. His voice as cold as the snow falling outside their wedding suite. But Jaiwoo, she had hoped. She had fallen for the man she saw during fleeting moments. When he smiled at his younger brother. When he carried an old woman's bags at the hospital. When he looked up at the stars, lost in thought. She had hoped that one day he would see her, not as a convenience, not as a burden, but as a woman, as his wife. And so she waited. Night after night, she cooked his meals. She greeted him. She cared for him. And she swallowed her loneliness with quiet grace. One evening, after yet another silent dinner, she followed him to the study. "Min-jae, can we talk?" He didn't look up from his laptop. "About what?" She stepped closer, her voice shaking. There's something I need to tell you." He paused. His fingers froze over the keyboard. He finally looked up, eyes narrowed slightly. "I'm listening." Jaiwoo held her breath for a moment. Then she placed her hand on her belly, her eyes welling up. "I'm pregnant." For a moment, everything stood still. Min-jae stared at her, unreadable. Not angry, not shocked, just blank. Then he stood, slowly. "When?" "Almost 2 months." He stepped past her, cold, measured. "You should have told me earlier," he said. "I was scared," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I didn't know how you'd react. But I thought maybe this would change something." He stopped. "Change what, Jaiwoo?" "That I'd suddenly fall in love with you." The words hit her like a slap. "I'm not some naive girl you can win over with tears and dreams," he added. "This marriage was never about love. Don't forget that." Jaiwoo's heart shattered silently. She didn't argue. She didn't scream. She just nodded. But as Min-jae walked away, her hand tightened on her belly protectively, and in her eyes, something shifted. a quiet flicker of strength began to rise. That night, while the city outside pulsed with life, Jaiwoo sat alone in the nursery she had secretly started decorating. She looked at the tiny socks folded neatly in a drawer, the pale yellow walls she had painted herself, and the small ultrasound photo tucked in her journal. She whispered to the unborn life inside her, "Even if your father doesn't want us, I will love you with all I have." And in that moment, Jaiwoo, once invisible, once timid, began to awaken, not as the wife of a cold tycoon, but as a mother, a woman, a force that life had underestimated. And though she didn't know it yet, her story was only beginning. A story of pain, betrayal, and unimaginable strength. A story that would one day bring her back to the stage, smiling, triumphant, and no longer alone. Shall I continue with the next topic in the same tone and depth? Você diz. Certo? Agora tu como narrador e storyteller desenvolva a história sem marcos com o nome de cada tópico que for desenvolve. Me conte sobre o tópico tu com dialogo como su faço espectador. Sempre lembrando de desenvolver com muita moco. Com muitos sentimentos de forma que a estrutura de narrativa utiliza uma linha temporal linear de modo o espectador sentir o que o personagem está sentindo amigos. Com 6.000 characters o ChatGPT diz. Of course, here's the continuation of the story, developing topic 2 in a deeply emotional, linear, and immersive style, as if you're watching and feeling it unfold scene by scene, like in a Korean drama. It was the middle of winter when Jaiwoo first felt the flutter in her belly. Faint, like a whisper against her skin. She was standing in the hallway, folding Minji's scarf, when the sensation made her pause. Her hands trembled slightly as she pressed her palm to her stomach. "You're really in there," she whispered, a tear rolling down her cheek. The snow outside had begun to fall, brushing softly against the glass. The house was silent, as always, but for the first time in months, Jaiwoo didn't feel entirely alone. There was life inside her, fragile, yes, but real. It was hers, someone who belonged to her without condition. She walked to the guest room, which she had secretly started turning into a nursery. She kept the door locked most of the time, afraid Minjae would see it and feel, what? Annoyed? Trapped? Still, each day she would sneak in for a few minutes, brushing her fingers over the tiny clothes, reading stories aloud even when no one else was listening. "I'm going to be everything for you," she would say quietly. "Mom, Dad, friend, everything." But behind her words was a quiet desperation. She still wanted him to care, to look at her belly and smile, to put his hand there and feel the heartbeat of the life they created. And so, one evening, she tried again. Minjae had just arrived home late. His coat was dusted with snow, and he looked exhausted, shoulders heavy from a long day at the company. He dropped his briefcase near the door and headed straight to his study. Jaiwoo followed, cautiously hopeful. "I was thinking," she began, standing in the doorway, "we could visit the doctor together next week. There's a scan scheduled. Maybe you'd like to hear the heartbeat." Minjae didn't even turn around. "I have meetings." Her smile faded. "It's just one appointment. 20 minutes. I said I have meetings," he snapped, louder this time. Jaiwoo flinched. There was a silence, long, suffocating. When he finally looked at her, his eyes were cold, like polished steel. "You're acting like this is some fairy tale, Jaiwoo. It's not. This was never supposed to be a family." Her breath caught. She looked at him, stunned. Words caught in her throat. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I never wanted a child. I didn't want a marriage. I told you from the beginning. You were a favor to my father. That's all this ever was." The words were knives. Jaiwoo stood frozen, tears blurring her vision. She looked at the man she had once thought she could warm with kindness, with loyalty, and saw nothing in his eyes. She walked away quietly, holding her belly with both hands. That night, she didn't cry. She just lay in bed, curled around her growing bump, whispering softly to her unborn child, "We'll be okay. Promise. No matter what he does, we'll be okay." But fate had a darker plan. Just 3 days later, Min-jae received a visit at the office from someone unexpected. You are a tall, elegant, confident. She walked in like she owned the building. Her red lips curved into a subtle smile as she sat across from him. I heard your little charity project is pregnant. Min-jae stiffened. She's my wife. Legally, maybe, Ura replied, sipping her tea. But does she feel like your wife, Min-jae? She leaned forward. I know you. I know what you need. And it's not a housewife who hides in shadows and cries over soup. He didn't respond, but he didn't deny it either. Ura smiled. Come back to the life you were born for. You don't need to play family man. That woman will only hold you back. Her words festered in his mind. That night, Min-jae came home with a face she didn't recognize. Cold, resolved, distant. He didn't touch the dinner table. He didn't look at her. Instead, he said, pack a small bag. I'm taking you to the hospital. Jae-woo blinked, startled. Is something wrong? You said your checkup is tomorrow morning. You're going tonight. I can go by myself. No, he said flatly. I'll take you. There was no warmth in his voice. As they drove through the city, Jae-woo looked at him with cautious hope. Thank you for coming with me. He didn't respond. When they arrived at the hospital, Min-jae led her through the emergency entrance, holding her arm firmly. She winced. You're hurting me. He didn't stop. Inside, he found the nearest nurse's station and said, She needs a checkup. The nurse looked confused. Is she bleeding? I don't know. She's your problem now, he said, cold as ice. Jae-woo looked up at him, horrified. Min-jae, what are you doing? He looked at her, really looked at her, one last time, then said the words that would haunt her forever. This is where our story ends. And then he turned and walked away. Jae-woo's knees gave out as she reached for him, but he was already gone. The pain in her abdomen started almost immediately. She collapsed on the hospital floor, clutching her belly, screaming as the cold tiles met her skin. Please help me. Nurses rushed in. She was bleeding. Her body, overwhelmed by stress and shock, had gone into premature labor. The next few hours were a blur, of screaming, of needles, of white lights and chaos. She thought she might die. She wanted to, but then she heard it. A cry, then another, and another. 3 cries. 3. She couldn't see them, but they were alive. The nurses whispered in awe. Triplets, and all breathing. Jae-woo lay there, body shaking, eyes full of tears. Her voice was no more than a whisper. You stayed, even when he didn't. And as the snow continued to fall outside, covering the city in silence, a mother was born. Not just a mother of children, but a woman reborn in pain, in strength, in the fire of betrayal. She didn't know how she would survive, but she would. For them. The silence was heavy now. The cries she'd heard, those fragile sounds of life, had long faded down the corridor when the nurses rushed the babies to the neonatal unit. No one had told her anything yet. No one had said if they were okay. If she was okay. She couldn't even move her legs, and her body ached like she had run through fire and survived only in fragments. The door opened softly. Mrs. Kong? A gentle voice called. She turned her head slowly. It was a young nurse, maybe in her mid-20s, holding a clipboard too big for her hands. Her face tried to smile, but her eyes carried weight. Jae-woo swallowed hard. My babies? The nurse walked to her side, sat down, and took her hand. It was the first warmth she had felt in what seemed like years. They're small, she said softly. Very small, but they're breathing on their own. That's a miracle. Jae-woo's breath hitched. All 3. The nurse nodded. All 3. 2 girls and a boy. She didn't cry. Not yet. She just let out a soft, trembling sound that didn't have a name. It was part relief, part disbelief, and part the beginning of something much stronger. Something that had been sleeping inside her until now. A mother's fire. The nurse squeezed her hand. We'll keep them in NICU for a while. It won't be easy. but they're fighters. Like their mom. Jaiwoo closed her eyes, and a tear slid down into her hair. "Thank you," she whispered. That night, she didn't sleep. Her body was exhausted, broken, but her mind wouldn't rest. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his back walking away. That final glance, that final sentence. This is where our story ends. She clenched the blanket in her fist, trying to push the memory away, but it burned itself deeper. Again and again, her heart screamed for answers, but no one could give them to her. So she clung to the only thing she had left: hope. Over the next few days, the nurses began to know her name. They saw the way she forced herself out of bed too soon, dragging her four-pole as she shuffled to the NICU wing. They saw her pressed against the glass, whispering names to her babies, even though they weren't strong enough to be held yet. "Yuna," she'd say, placing her hand on the glass beside her first daughter. "You're brave." "Haun," she whispered to the second, smaller one. "You're light." And to the only boy, whose chest rose and fell like a feather, she smiled with trembling lips. "Miho, my heart." No one ever visited her. No flowers arrived. No husband. No family. The other mothers in the ward had strollers waiting, grandparents taking photos, husbands crying in joy. Jaiwoo had only silence. But in that silence, something strange happened. She stopped waiting. She stopped waiting for Min-jae to appear. Stopped hoping for an apology, a rescue, a return. Because the truth had already been written in the blood she left on that hospital floor. On the fourth day, the doctor came with an apology in his eyes. "We'll need to transfer your children to a specialized neonatal unit in Busan," he said gently. "It's going to be expensive, but I'll find a way," she said before he could finish. The nurse who had first greeted her, Sora, waited outside her room that night. Jaiwoo found her there, holding a cup of warm barley tea. "I heard what the doctor said," Sora murmured. I know someone who runs a safe house for women. They help mothers in situations like yours." Jaiwoo looked down. "Is it a shelter?" "It's more than that," Sora said. "It's a place to start over." Jaiwoo hesitated. Shame clawed at her chest. Pride wanted to say no. But then she remembered those tiny lungs, fighting every second for life. "Can I take my babies with me?" Sora smiled. "They'll help you get everything arranged." It took 3 more weeks before the babies were stable enough to be moved. And when the time came, Jaiwoo walked into the snow with nothing but a thin coat, a borrowed suitcase, and her newborns wrapped in hospital blankets. She had no money, no ID, no destination that felt like home, but she had her children, and this time she wasn't being left behind. She was leaving on her own. The shelter was small but clean, tucked between old buildings in a quieter part of the city. The director, an older woman named Yunmi, welcomed her like she was family. "No one here judges," Yumi said as she led Jaiwoo to a tiny room with 3 bassinets lined up neatly. "You've already survived what many wouldn't." The first night, Jaiwoo couldn't sleep. She kept rising from bed to check the baby's breathing. Every time one of them stirred, she whispered lullabies. When one cried, she held them all, at once if she had to. Days became weeks. Jaiwoo learned to stretch diapers, to mix formula when her milk ran low, to bathe 3 squirming newborns without dropping any. She burned through exhaustion like it was fuel, driven by a fire she didn't know she had. Yunmi noticed her strength. "You were never weak," she said one day, watching Jaiwoo bounce Miho on her hip. "You were just caged." Jaiwoo smiled faintly. "I didn't even realize it until the cage was gone." "You'll rise," Yumi added. "Higher than you ever thought." She didn't know what Yunmi meant yet, but one day a letter arrived for her, addressed in careful handwriting. It wasn't from Min-jae. It was from a local community center. "Dear Ms. Kang, we heard about your story from Nurse Sora. We are running a workshop for mothers who want to rebuild their lives. We believe your experience could inspire others." Jaiwoo stared at the letter for a long time. Her? Speak in front of others? But something stirred in her chest. Not pride, not ambition, purpose. She looked down at her children playing on the floor, their eyes bright, unaware of how much she had bled to keep them alive. Maybe it was time to speak, not for pity, not for revenge, but to show the world what survival looks like. And somewhere far away, in a sleek glass office tower, Min-jae sat alone at a desk, staring at the empty side of the bed he never realized he needed filled. But that part of the story hadn't reached him yet. Not until it was too late. 3 years. 3 years had passed since that brutal winter night. The days blurred together at first, a rhythm of diapers, feeding bottles, tears, and lullabies. There were nights Jae-woo cried silently into her pillow while the babies slept, wondering if she had made the right choice walking away from everything. But then, each morning, when she opened her eyes and saw 3 pairs of blinking lashes looking back at her, there was never a doubt. They were growing so fast now. Ha-eun had already declared she would be a space explorer. Yuna wanted to sing on a big stage like a princess. And Miho, he said nothing. But when he hugged her leg and held on for just a second longer, Jae-woo knew he understood more than his little words could express. The triplets looked so much like him. That haunted her sometimes, especially Miho. He had Minji's sharp jawline, his intense eyes, the same expression when he was thinking hard. Sometimes Jae-woo had to look away, but not because she hated it, because a part of her still mourned what could have been. Yoonmi peeked into the room with a knowing smile. They're getting louder every day. Jae-woo looked up from where she was folding tiny shirts. I think they believe the louder they are, the more they'll be heard. Yoonmi leaned against the doorframe. That's not always a bad thing. Jae-woo hesitated. I used to be so quiet. I thought being silent would keep the peace. Did it? No, Jae-woo whispered. It just erased me. She looked back at her children. They gave me my voice back. Later that evening, after putting the children to bed, Jae-woo walked into the small kitchen where Sora was waiting with her usual warm tea and a small flyer. I thought you might want to see this, Sora said, placing it on the table. Jae-woo raised an eyebrow, then looked down. It was an advertisement for a community storytelling night, an event where ordinary people would take the stage and share a true experience that shaped their life. Sora smiled gently. They're looking for someone to open the event. Jae-woo stared at the flyer for a long time. Her fingers tightened around the paper. I'm not sure I'm ready. You're more than ready, Sora said. You just haven't realized it yet. Jae-woo didn't answer. That night, after Sora left, she stood in front of the mirror in the shared bathroom and looked at herself under the flickering yellow light. Her face had changed. There were faint lines beneath her eyes. Her cheeks were slimmer, her body softer from motherhood. Her eyes no longer filled with longing but with focus. She didn't recognize the girl who once stood in the shadows of a penthouse. She was someone else now, someone stronger. She closed her eyes, and then she said it out loud, to the version of herself she used to be. You don't need his permission anymore. The next morning, she called the number on the flyer. I'd like to speak, she said into the phone, her voice steady. The woman on the other end was cheerful. Wonderful. Can you send us a short summary of your story? Jae-woo paused. How honest do you want it? As honest as you're brave enough to be. That night, she sat at the kitchen table while her children slept, a pen shaking in her hand. Then she began to write. My name is Jae-woo. 3 years ago, I was abandoned on a hospital floor while carrying 3 lives inside me. I nearly died, but I survived. Not because someone came to save me, but because I chose to save myself. She didn't hold back. Every word she wrote was a piece of herself laid bare. When she finished, she folded the paper and tucked it into an envelope. The day of the event came faster than she expected. The venue was small, a modest community center with fold-out chairs and low ceilings, but to Jae-woo, it felt like a coliseum. Her hands were clammy, her knees weak, but Sora stood beside her, adjusting the mic before she walked onto the stage. You've already faced worse than this, Sora whispered. This is the easy part. This is just telling the truth. When Jae-woo stepped onto the stage, she squinted against the lights. The crowd wasn't huge, but it felt massive. She could see strangers watching, whispering, But she also saw her children in the front row, legs swinging from their chairs, smiling up at her with the purest kind of love. And that was enough. She took a deep breath. "My name is Jaiwoo," she began. Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. "I was once someone who believed that silence was safer than speaking, that staying quiet would earn me love, that if I gave enough of myself away, someone would finally choose me." A hush fell over the room. "I was wrong." She spoke for 10 minutes, told them about the marriage, the betrayal, the hospital floor, the scream that tore from her throat when she realized she was alone in a way no woman should ever be. And then she told them about her children, the first cries, the NICU, the shelter, the late nights and the loneliness, the fire. When she finished, there was silence. Then one person stood up, then another. Applause rippled through the crowd, slow, respectful, and full of something that startled her. Not pity, admiration. Jaiwoo looked down and found Yuna clapping the hardest. "Mommy's a superhero," she whispered proudly to Miho. Jaiwoo stepped off the stage and sank to her knees, wrapping her arms around them. And in the back of the room, unnoticed by her, a journalist who had come to cover a different story wiped a tear and scribbled down her name. She rubbed her eyes and walked to the kitchen barefoot, only to find Sora already sitting there with a newspaper in hand. Her face was unreadable. Jaiwoo blinked. "You're up early." Sora turned the paper slowly, sliding it across the table without a word. Jaiwoo looked down. There, on the front page of the lifestyle section, was her face. Not just her name, her face. Caught mid-sentence, eyes brimming with tears, mouth open in raw truth. Beneath it, a headline in bold, "Abandoned on the floor, reborn on the stage. The story of Jaiwoo Kong and her 3 miracles." She froze. Her heart raced. I didn't think they would publish anything," she said, her voice cracking. "They didn't even speak to me." "They were in the back," Sora said softly. "A freelance writer. She sent the article to 3 news outlets. One of them printed it." Jaiwoo sat down slowly, still staring at the image. And then, as if on cue, the shelter phone rang. Once, twice, then again, and again. Voicemail lights blinked red. The inbox began to flood. By noon, there were over 50 missed calls. By the end of the day, over 200. Most were strangers, mothers, survivors, people thanking her, people crying, people wanting to know her story, wanting to tell her theirs. And somewhere among those calls, buried in the wave of voices, was him, Min-jae. He had read the article. She didn't know it yet, but far across the city, behind walls of glass and pride, he sat in his office staring at the paper in his hand. His fingers were trembling. He had read her name twice, then 3 times. Jaiwoo. Couldn't be. But the photo, the eyes, those children. He stared at the 3 toddlers captured in the photo below the headline. They were blurry, running around her legs. But one of them, Miho, he stopped breathing. He looked exactly like his father. Min-jae stood up too fast, the chair behind him crashing to the floor. Yura rushed into the office moments later, her smile quickly faltering at the sight of him. "What's wrong?" she asked, eyeing the paper. He didn't answer. Instead, he shoved it toward her. She read it. Her face paled. "That can't be her. She's supposed to be dead?" he snapped. Yura swallowed. "I don't understand. You told me she never came back. You told me she would never survive," he hissed. "You said she'd gone somewhere far, that no one had seen her since that night." Yura tried to smile, reaching for his arm. "Min-jae, listen, this doesn't change anything. That girl is manipulating the press." But he pulled away. "She was pregnant. With my children." Yura flinched. He picked up the paper again, his eyes scanning every detail. "She raised them, alone, and I left her there." He stumbled back toward his desk, breath ragged. "I need to find her." Meanwhile, back at the shelter, Jaiwoo sat in the quiet of the nursery, rocking Miho in her arms. His fever had broken earlier that morning, and he was finally asleep again. She looked down at his peaceful face and felt a shiver of worry. The story was no longer just hers now, it belonged to the world. And that meant the past could find her. "Amma," Yuna called from the doorway, rubbing her eyes. "Why are people calling you brave?" Jaiwoo smiled gently, motioning for her daughter to come close. "Because I told the truth." "About Daddy?" Jaiwoo's smile faltered. She held Yuna's hand. "Not yet." Yuna nodded solemnly and climbed into her lap. "When I have a daddy, I want him to make pancakes." Jaiwoo held her tighter, hiding the sting in her chest. "That sounds nice." Outside, the sun began to rise. But far from warmth, it only brought a chill. Yunmi knocked softly on the nursery door that afternoon, her face unreadable. "There's someone here to see you." Jaiwoo blinked. "Who?" "He said he's from the Daehan group." He didn't give a name. Jaiwoo's blood turned to ice. She stood slowly, placing the children back in their playpen, heart racing. "Is he still here?" Yunmi nodded. "He's waiting in the courtyard." Jaiwoo didn't know how her legs carried her there. She stepped through the doorway and into the courtyard, her breath catching in her throat. Min-jae stood by the edge of the flower beds, holding the newspaper in one hand. His face looked older, tired, haunted. When he turned and saw her, he didn't speak. Neither did she. For a long time, they simply stood there, two people with years between them, with words too heavy to speak aloud. And then he whispered, "You're alive." Jaiwoo crossed her arms, holding herself. "You sound disappointed." His eyes filled instantly. "I never Jaiwoo. I thought." She raised a hand. Don't say you thought I died. Don't pretend that night didn't happen. You left me on the floor." He stepped closer. "I was wrong. I was blind. You were cruel." His face contorted. "I know. I begged you," she said, her voice breaking. "I begged you with a child inside me, and you turned your back. I didn't know." "You didn't want to know," she snapped, "because knowing meant facing what you'd done." Silence stretched between them. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photo. It was crumpled from the paper, the one of her holding the kid's hands. "I saw them," he said quietly. "They're mine." "No," she replied. "They're mine." Minji's shoulders collapsed. "Can I see them?" Jaiwoo didn't move. "They don't know you. They only know one parent. One who stayed. I want to make it right." She took a long breath. "Some things you don't get to fix." Her heart was torn. Part of her wanted to scream. Another wanted to cry. But most of all, she wanted to disappear. To protect her children from the storm she knew was coming. She didn't sleep that night. When the sun broke over the horizon, Jaiwoo was already awake, sitting by the window with a cold cup of barley tea in her hand, watching the steam curl and vanish. A soft knock on the door. It was Yunmi. "He's gone," she said gently. He didn't wait. Jaiwoo nodded, grateful. But the relief was laced with dread. He wouldn't stop. She knew that look in his eyes. Min-jae had tasted guilt, and guilt in his world was a debt he would try to pay back, no matter the cost. Later that morning, while brushing Yuna's hair, the little girl turned to her with wide eyes. "Amma, is that man coming back?" Jaiwoo's hand froze. "What man?" "The one in the garden. The one who looked at Miho like he was made of stars." Jaiwoo swallowed. "What did he say to you?" "He didn't say anything, just smiled. But he cried a little." Jaiwoo gently turned her daughter's face toward her. "If you ever see him again, you come to me right away. Understand?" Yuna nodded obediently, but Jaiwoo's heart had already begun to race again. 2 days passed. She tried to keep things normal. Routine. Breakfast, school prep, chores, stories at bedtime. She smiled for her children and laughed when they made silly faces. But deep down, she knew something was changing. And on the 3rd day, that change arrived in the form of a letter. It was hand-delivered. No stamp, no return address. She opened it with trembling fingers. "Jaiwoo, I know I don't deserve to ask anything from you. But please hear me one last time. I want to explain, not to fix the past, but to tell you the truth I never gave you. Please meet me just once. Anywhere. Anytime. alone. If you say no, I'll never bother you again. Minjae, she stared at the words, her breath caught in her throat. There was no anger in the letter, no demands, just a request. But she wasn't sure what was worse, his arrogance or his humility. Yoonmi found her standing in the hallway, letter crushed in her fist. Are you all right? She asked. Jaewoo looked up. He wants to meet. Yoonmi studied her for a moment. What do you want? I want... Jaewoo hesitated. I want to know why he left me like that, why he could throw me away like I was nothing. I want to hear him say it. Then go, Yoonmi said. But go for you, not for him. Jaewoo nodded slowly. That evening, under a quiet sky just before dusk, she walked into the empty rooftop garden of an old building downtown. Minji's chosen location. He was already there, wearing a coat darker than the sky, standing by the railing, his hands in his pockets, staring out at the city below like it held the answers he'd never found. When he turned to see her, the air between them stilled. Thank you for coming, he said softly. Jaewoo remained still. This is your one chance. Don't waste it. He nodded, eyes filled with something she hadn't seen before. Regret, real and raw. I read the article over and over, he began. At first, I thought it was fake, some cruel coincidence. But when I saw their faces, he paused. They have your smile. But Miho, he's mine. Jaewoo clenched her jaw. All three are. He looked at her like it physically hurt to hear that. I was a coward, he said. No, worse. I was empty. I grew up learning to hide everything. Fear, love, weakness. When I met you, I thought I could control it all. Keep you hidden, quiet, safe. But when you told me you were pregnant, I panicked. You punished me for loving you, she said bitterly. He flinched. I convinced myself that it was better to cut it off cleanly, that if I let you go, you'd find someone who could actually love you. But you didn't let me go, she said, stepping closer. You abandoned me. His eyes burned. I know, and I will carry that shame for the rest of my life. Silence hung between them, thick, devastating. Why now? She asked. Why look for me now? Because I saw what you became without me, he said. And it made me realize how small I am. You rose from the floor I left you on, Jaewoo. You didn't just survive. You built something, a life, a family. He took a slow breath. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I needed you to know that I see you now. Her lips trembled. That's not enough. I know, he whispered. But it's true. She turned to leave, but he called after her. Can I do anything for them? Not for me, for them. She paused. I don't need your money. I know. They don't need a stranger. I just want to help, he said, even if it's from afar. Jaewoo closed her eyes. I'll think about it. And then she left him there, under the cold, gray sky, holding nothing but truth and the pain of what he had lost. She didn't cry that night, but she didn't sleep either, because now the question wasn't if she should let him into their lives. One evening, as she folded the laundry, she glanced at the community center flyer pinned above her desk, the one that started everything. Next to it, now taped proudly, was a photograph. Her and the triplets, all of them beaming after her first public talk. A moment frozen in time, where love had triumphed over everything. The door creaked behind her. Haeun peeked in, rubbing her eyes. Why are you sad? Jaewoo turned quickly, forcing a smile. I'm not sad, sweetheart. Haeun stepped closer, her tiny hand reaching for Jaewoo's. You look like you missed someone. Jaewoo hesitated. Do you remember the man in the garden? Haeun nodded slowly. The one with the quiet eyes. Jaewoo paused. That man is... someone important. A long time ago. Haeun tilted her head. Was he mean to you? Jaewoo blinked at the unexpected question. Yes, she answered softly. He hurt me very deeply, but people, they can change. Sometimes. Do you still love him? Jaewoo swallowed hard. I don't know. Hao nodded as if she understood more than she should. Miho likes him. Jaiwoo froze. What do you mean? He saw a picture. The one you hid in your drawer. He said, That's the man from my dreams. Her throat tightened. She had forgotten about the old family photo tucked away in her desk. Miho had found it. Later that night, Jaiwoo sat in bed, staring at the ceiling. She couldn't sleep. Her thoughts spun endlessly. What ifs, maybes, and silent wars inside her chest. She had survived so much. But the next decision could change everything. The next morning, she found Miho sitting on the front step, hugging a sketch pad. What are you drawing, baby? She asked, kneeling beside him. He turned the pad toward her. It was a picture of 3 children holding hands with a man. The lines were simple, childlike, but the man was unmistakably Min-jae. Jaiwoo's breath caught. Is that someone you saw? She asked carefully. Miho nodded. He feels like me, he said softly. Like we're the same. She wrapped her arms around him, burying her face in his hair. And for the first time, she allowed the tears to fall not from pain, but from the unbearable weight of love. Later that week, a new call came, this time not from a stranger, but from someone in media. Miss Kong, your story continues to reach more people. We'd love to feature you in a televised segment. Something small, something hopeful. Just 15 minutes. You can decline, of course. But people are listening. Jaiwoo hesitated. On one hand, it terrified her. More exposure meant more eyes, more risk. But on the other, she thought of all the women who had written letters, the girls who sent drawings, the single mother who visited the shelter last week, shaking and afraid, who said, Your story gave me courage. And then she thought of her own children. If she didn't tell the full story, someone else eventually would. And she had learned, painfully, that the best way to protect her truth was to speak it herself. She said yes. The day of the recording arrived, and Jaiwoo stood outside the studio holding the hands of her children. They had insisted on coming. The producers had cleared it. It would be recorded in segments. Her words, their laughter, the quiet strength of a mother who built something from nothing. Inside the makeup room, she stared at herself in the mirror. Gone was the timid girl who once waited in the shadows of a penthouse. The woman staring back wore simple earrings, a beige blouse, and carried a softness that had been forged in fire. Are you ready, Miss Kong? The producer asked from the doorway. Jaiwoo took one breath and nodded. She walked onto the set, lights warming her face, cameras blinking to life. The host greeted her kindly, easing into the questions. Childhood, dreams, the pregnancy, the betrayal. She spoke each part carefully, truthfully, without shame. And then came the question she had been expecting. Do your children know who their father is? Jaiwoo paused. The crew fell still. Even the lights seemed to dim. They know they came from love, she answered. Even if that love broke. The host looked surprised. That's generous of you. Jaiwoo looked at the camera. I don't know what kind of man their father is now, but I know what kind of mother I want to be. And that's someone who teaches forgiveness, not bitterness. When the segment ended, the host thanked her with a soft smile. As the cameras turned off and Jaiwoo stood to leave, someone handed her a phone. It's for you, said the assistant. He called the station. Jaiwoo hesitated, then answered. Hello. It was Min-jae. I saw you. She said nothing. You're more than I ever deserved. Why did you call? I need to ask something. What? Will you let me come to the next event? Just to sit in the audience. To see the children. I won't speak. I won't approach. I need to see them living. Jaiwoo closed her eyes. After a long silence, she whispered, One time, one seat, then you leave. Minji's breath caught. Thank you. She hung up. Behind her, the triplets ran up with juice boxes and crayons, laughing as they dragged her back into the real world. But her heart was bracing for something she couldn't name yet. Because even though she had agreed to let him see, she didn't know what would happen when his eyes met theirs, not from a distance, but from a place where the truth could no longer be denied. Jaiwoo sat on the floor beside their small beds, her arms wrapped around her knees. Her eyes traveled from one child to the next, and her heart swelled so full it ached. They didn't know. Not really. They didn't know what it meant for someone like Min Jae to suddenly exist in their orbit. To go from faceless dream to real man, standing in their world. What if they welcomed him too quickly? What if they loved too easily? And what if, God forbid, he broke them the way he once broke her? She stood, slowly, brushing hair from Miho's forehead. Then she whispered into the quiet room, barely audible even to herself. How do I protect you without taking something away? The next morning, everything moved fast. Too fast. Jaiwoo had barely finished dressing the kids before Yoonmi entered the kitchen with wide eyes and her phone in hand. It's happening again, she said, holding it out. The screen showed a new article. This time, it wasn't just Jaiwoo's story. It was the story of the children. Triplets of the woman who stunned Korea. A family built from ashes. Beneath the headline was a collage of blurry paparazzi shots. One of her holding Haeun at a recent community event. Another of Miho's unmistakable face peeking through the car window. Jaiwoo's stomach turned. No, she whispered. They said it wouldn't be published. Yoonmi sat beside her. This wasn't the studio. This is a tabloid. Someone must have leaked it. Jaiwoo pressed her hands to her temples. This is exactly what I didn't want. The exposure. It's too much. A sudden crash startled them both. Yoona had dropped her cereal bowl on the floor. Milk spread across the tiles like a slow wave, but she didn't cry. She stood frozen, eyes wide, staring at the newspaper now laid out on the table. Why is Miho on there? She asked. Why are we in the newspaper? Jaiwoo crouched to clean the spill, hands shaking. I'll explain soon, sweetheart. I promise. But Yoona didn't look convinced. And for the first time, Jaiwoo saw the shadow of confusion settling into her daughter's face. Later that day, Jaiwoo walked into the shared shelter office and pulled out the photo again, the one Miho had drawn. She stared at it for a long time. And then, before she could change her mind, she picked up the phone and called Min Jae. He answered immediately. I didn't expect to hear from you again. This wasn't part of the deal, she said. Your presence is stirring things. They're showing up in the news. I didn't do that, Min Jae said quickly. I swear, I haven't spoken to anyone. I've kept my distance. Jaiwoo closed her eyes. They're not ready to meet you. Not like this. There was a pause. Then let me introduce myself properly. Her heart skipped. What do you mean? There's an event at the city center this weekend. Isn't there? One you're hosting for mothers and children. Yes. I want to be there, but not as a guest. As a donor. Quiet. Anonymous. I'll sit in the back. I won't approach unless you allow it. Jaiwoo didn't answer immediately. Why are you doing this? He exhaled. Because every day I see their faces, and I realize I don't know the sound of their laughter. I don't know who they are, and I should. A silence fell over the line. You'll stay in the back, Jaiwoo said finally, and you will not say a word to them. Not yet. I understand. The call ended. Jaiwoo lowered the phone slowly, unsure whether she had made the right decision or the biggest mistake of her life. 2 days later, the event began. The auditorium was alive with color. Banners painted by the children hung from the ceiling. Tables were filled with art supplies, snacks, and tiny hands waving finger paints in the air. Jaiwoo wore a soft lavender blouse and had braided Yuna's hair herself. The children were everywhere, laughing, running, dancing. And Min Jae, he was there. True to his word, he sat in the very last row, dressed simply, his face unreadable as he watched Miho climb onto the small stage and announce, I made a drawing of my family. The crowd clapped. Watched Yuna tug on Jaiwoo's hand and sing into the mic with all her heart, off-key and fearless. And when Haeun spilled glitter all over the table and laughed like it was the best thing that had ever happened, Min Jae pressed a fist to his mouth, his eyes glistening. Jaiwoo caught glimpses of him from time to time, but she didn't go to him. Not yet. Instead, Near the end of the event, she stood on the stage with a microphone in hand, the triplets at her side. The lights warmed her face, and her voice was steady. 3 years ago, I thought I had nothing. No future, no support, just pain. But then I realized something. Sometimes, the people you love the most don't save you. Sometimes they leave you. She looked out over the crowd. For a moment, her eyes landed on Min-jae. And when they do, you're forced to find your own strength. And when you do that, when you rise from the place they left you, you realize they never truly knew who you were. The room was silent. Jae-woo knelt beside her children, kissing the top of each head. I thought I lost everything, she whispered into the mic, but I gained the whole world. Applause roared. Min-jae remained still, his hands in his lap, his face hidden in shadow. But Jae-woo saw it. The way his shoulders trembled, the way his jaw clenched. And somehow, in that moment, she didn't feel vengeance. She felt peace. Because this time, she wasn't the one begging to be seen. He was. Volunteers packed up chairs. Children clutched crayon drawings like treasures. The air smelled of juice boxes and vanilla cupcakes. Jae-woo stood near the stage, watching the triplets run around barefoot, chasing each other across the soft carpet as if the entire auditorium belonged to them. Then she saw him. Min-jae was still in his seat. Everyone else had left, but he remained, silent, unmoving, watching. She had tried not to look his way during the event, had tried to pretend she didn't feel the weight of his gaze on her. But now, as their eyes met, she knew she couldn't ignore it anymore. She walked slowly toward the back row, the heels of her shoes barely making a sound on the carpeted floor. He stood as she approached as if out of instinct, but he didn't speak first. His hands trembled at his sides. "You said you'd stay in the back," she said softly, folding her arms across her chest. "I did," he replied. "I didn't move an inch." She nodded, her expression unreadable. "But your eyes followed them everywhere." He didn't deny it. "They're so alive, so full of light." "They had to be," she replied. "There was no one else to be strong for them." His voice cracked. "You were." Jae-woo looked down at her hands. They were stained with paint from helping the kids with their art stations. She hadn't even noticed until now. "You've been watching," she said, "but you don't know them." "I want to," he said immediately. "Every little detail." Her eyes shot up to his. "You want to know their favorite snacks? Their bedtime songs? Which one is scared of the dark? You want to know who gets nightmares, who needs 2 bedtime kisses instead of 1? Who always loses her socks? Who cries when the wind is too loud?" He opened his mouth, but no words came out. "You missed all of it," she said, her voice shaking now. "The first steps, the first words, their fevers, their fights. You weren't there when Miho choked on a grape and I thought I was going to lose him. You weren't there when Yuna stood on a stool to sing happy birthday to Haun with a candle she stole from the chapel." Tears slipped down her cheeks, but her voice stayed strong. "You didn't build them." Minji's eyes welled. "I want to make up for it," he whispered, "even if it takes my whole life." Jae-woo looked away, blinking quickly. "I don't know if that's possible." "I don't want to erase your pain," he said. "I know I can't, but maybe I can start by being present now." A long silence. Then Jae-woo turned, pointing toward the children. "See that?" They were playing with another boy their age, and Haun was dramatically telling him he had to be a gentle prince if he wanted to join their imaginary kingdom. That's their world, pure, uncomplicated, and I protect that with everything I have. Min-jae nodded. "I wouldn't change it, I swear." "I need time," she said. He took a breath like it was the first one in hours. "I'll wait." "No promises," she warned. He smiled weakly. "No expectations." Just then, Miho turned around and caught sight of them. His eyes lit up in recognition, not because he knew Minji's name, but because the man had become a familiar face from afar. Miho waved shyly. Jae-woo stiffened. Min-jae didn't wave back. He simply looked at her, asking with his eyes if he could. She gave a tiny nod. He raised his hand gently, slowly. Miho grinned. Jaiwoo felt her heart break and swell all at once. Later that evening, when the triplets were tucked into bed and the shelter had grown quiet again, she sat alone by the window with a cup of cold tea in her hands. Yunmi joined her, holding a blanket and a knowing look. "You let him see them," Yunmi said gently. Jaiwoo nodded. "I didn't expect it to hurt this much," she whispered. "It felt like opening a wound I thought had healed." Yunmi didn't say anything at first. She just listened. "I'm afraid," Jaiwoo continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not of him leaving again, but of them loving him. Of them needing something from him I can't control." Yunmi placed a hand on her shoulder. "You've given them everything they needed for 3 years. Love, safety, truth. That won't vanish if they grow curious about him." Jaiwoo turned her face into her hands. "I'm not sure I'm strong enough to share them." "You don't have to share them," Yumi said. "You just have to be honest. With them, and with yourself." Jaiwoo looked up at the stars. One twinkled brighter than the others, flickering through a thin cloud. "I used to think being a mother meant doing everything alone," she said. "But maybe it also means knowing when to open the door." Yunmi smiled softly. "Then maybe you're stronger than you think." As the night deepened, Jaiwoo walked quietly to the nursery and opened the door. She stood there, watching the steady rise and fall of her children's chests, listening to the soft breathing that had become the heartbeat of her world. And in her heart, a new question took root. Could a broken family ever find a new shape? Not the old one, not the one that shattered, but something new, something unexpected, something whole in a different way. She didn't have the answer yet. One morning, Jaiwoo found a small envelope in the shelter's mailbox, addressed in neat, almost hesitant handwriting. No name, just the words, "For Miho, Yuna, and Haun." Inside were 3 hand-drawn bookmarks, one with stars and a little rocket ship, one with musical notes and a flower crown, and one with a lion, quiet and strong. They weren't perfect, slightly messy lines, faded pencil shading, but Jaiwoo recognized the effort. They weren't made by an assistant. He had drawn them himself. She showed them to the children that afternoon, unsure how they would react. Miho's fingers hovered over the lion one before he picked it up carefully. "It's brave," he said softly. Yuna giggled at the flower crown. "Is this supposed to be me? Why is my nose so big?" Haun turned the rocket ship over and frowned. "It needs glitter." They didn't ask who made them. They just kept them. Later, while cleaning the playroom, Jaiwoo noticed Miho had tucked the lion bookmark into his favorite bedtime book. She stared at it for a long time. She didn't say a word. 3 days later, Yunmi handed her a card. "He dropped this off." Jaiwoo opened it slowly. "I'd like to do something for the other children. Not just mine. A donation, yes, but also my time. Quietly. As a volunteer, if you'll let me. I want them to know I'm not just a man with a past. I'm someone trying to build a future, too. Jaiwoo's hand trembled. She didn't answer the card. Not right away. But that weekend, she passed by the shelter's activity room and found him there, seated on the floor, surrounded by crayons and cardboard boxes, cutting shapes for an upcoming craft day. The children from the shelter didn't recognize him as anything other than another kind adult. They called him Ajusi. He smiled each time. Jaiwoo watched from the hallway, unseen. There was no arrogance in him now. No pride. Just a quiet man trying to rebuild something that didn't have a name yet. She returned to her room that night and opened the drawer where she kept her journal. She hadn't written in it in months. But now, she had something to say. He's not the same. But I'm not the same either. I don't trust easily. I don't forgive quickly. But I see it. The way he looks at them. Like he's memorizing every blink. Every word. Every breath. As if he knows he lost years he'll never get back. She paused. And the children, they're beginning to feel it too. That truth landed softly. He wasn't a stranger to them anymore. Not completely. It was the following afternoon when everything shifted. They were at the park behind the shelter. Jaiwoo sat on a bench, chatting with Sora, while the children played in the grass. Min-jae had been invited gently to join, at a distance. He stood under a tree, hands in his pockets, watching. Yuna was the first to walk toward him. Then Haun followed. Jaiwoo tensed. Miho hesitated, lingering near the swings. Then slowly, almost nervously, he approached too. They didn't speak to him at first. They just looked. And Min-jae, he crouched to their level, saying nothing, waiting. Yuna finally broke the silence. "Did you draw the big nose picture?" Min-jae blinked, then smiled, soft and genuine. "I tried." "You need practice," Haun said with mock seriousness. "I know," he said. "Will you help me get better?" They exchanged glances. Then, to Jaiwoo's shock, Yuna handed him a piece of chalk and pointed to the pavement. "Draw something now. Prove it." He knelt beside them, carefully sketching stick figures with ridiculous hairstyles. They laughed. Miho watched for a moment longer, then slowly joined in, drawing a small lion beside the others. Jaiwoo felt something break inside her. Not in a painful way, but like ice melting after a long, frozen winter. Sora leaned in and whispered, "It's starting, isn't it?" Jaiwoo nodded, barely breathing. "Yes." That evening, while putting the children to bed, Miho tugged at her sleeve. "Amma." "Yes, baby? Is he really my daddy?" Jaiwoo froze. She looked into his eyes, those eyes that mirrored Minji's so perfectly, and for the first time she didn't lie. "Yes," she whispered. "He is." Miho didn't react right away. Then he nodded slowly. "Okay." That was it. No questions, no confusion, just quiet acceptance. As Jaiwoo turned out the lights and kissed their foreheads, her heart beat heavy in her chest. She walked into the hallway, back to the quiet. And there, sitting on the floor with his back against the wall, was Min-jae. Waiting. She didn't speak. She sat beside him. For a long time, they said nothing. Then, Min-jae whispered, "Today was the best day of my life." Jaiwoo looked at the wall across from them. "They're starting to trust you." His voice cracked. "I don't deserve it." "No," she said, "but they're giving it anyway." She stood and turned toward her room. Before disappearing inside, she paused. "If you hurt them, if you ever disappear again, there won't be another chance." His voice was a vow. "I'm not going anywhere." Jaiwoo stood at the sink, rinsing rice, the familiar motions grounding her in a routine that once felt like survival and now, unexpectedly, had begun to feel like peace. From the other room, she could hear the children giggling over something Min-jae was reading aloud. He had been spending more time at the shelter lately. Not overnight, not for long. Just enough to help with dinner, build toy shelves, or sit cross-legged while reading fairy tales with exaggerated voices. He was careful, never overstepping, always asking Jaiwoo first, even when the children had already pulled him into their world. Jaiwoo had started watching him when he didn't know. She noticed the way his eyes softened when Miho tugged at his sleeve, how he leaned in to listen when Yuna whispered secrets, and how he held his breath every time Haun wrapped her arms around his neck like she'd always known him. She had expected awkwardness, distance, but they were becoming something else, something unspoken, something terrifying. She was drying her hands when the door to the kitchen opened. Sora stood there, her face pale. "Jaiwoo!" Her voice trembled. Jaiwoo's heart dropped. "What is it? You need to see this." Sora handed her a tablet. A news stream already open. Jaiwoo stared at the screen. For a moment, her brain refused to process it. Then she read the headline out loud. Tycoon's secret family revealed. CEO Kong Min-jae linked to viral mother and triplets. Underneath, an image flashed. Min-jae, crouched beside the children at the park. One of Yuna laughing with her arms around his neck. And one, God, no, of Jaiwoo herself, holding Miho's hand near the shelter steps. It wasn't just a leak. It was an explosion. Jaiwoo's knees gave out as she sank onto the chair behind her. No, 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 no. Sora knelt beside her, placing a hand on her back. I don't know how they got the photos. Jaiwoo's hands trembled as she scrolled. They had names, speculation about their identities. The timeline, the rumors, the betrayal. The narrative was being spun in real time. Cold-hearted wife faked her death and vanished with Kang's children. Reclusive woman rises to fame, dragging CEO's name through the mud. She couldn't breathe. "What about the kids?" she whispered. "They'll be hounded. Their faces are out there." Sora nodded. "We've already alerted the center staff. They're increasing security. We'll do everything we can." But Jaiwoo already knew. It wasn't enough. She stood quickly and stormed down the hallway to the playroom. She could hear laughter. Min-jae was reading a story, some fantasy tale about talking animals and a magical door. He looked up when she burst in. One look at her face and the color drained from his. "It's out, isn't it?" She threw the tablet onto the table. "You said you were being careful." "I was," he said, standing. "I've never spoken to a single reporter." "Then how did this happen?" she snapped. "There are photos. Of me. Of them." The children quieted. Min-jae glanced at them, guilt darkening his expression. Jaiwoo turned to them, her voice gentler. "Go play in the nursery for a while. Okay?" Miho hesitated. "Are you fighting?" "No," she forced a smile. "Just talking." They didn't argue. They slipped out quietly. As the door closed, Jaiwoo turned on Min-jae. "I trusted you," she said, voice breaking. "I let you near them. I let you near me. And now they'll be hunted. Labeled. Their lives will never be the same." Min-jae stepped closer. "Let me fix this." "How?" she demanded. "You think money makes this disappear? A press statement? Damage control." "I'll step down," he said. Jaiwoo blinked. "What?" "I'll resign from the company," he said again, more certain now. "I'll give up everything if that's what it takes. I'll issue a statement claiming full responsibility. I'll protect you." "You'll what?" she said, stunned. "Your family name, your career?" "Mean nothing," he interrupted, voice shaking. "Not compared to this. Not compared to them." Jaiwoo stared at him. She saw the sincerity, the fear, the same desperation she once had when clutching her belly on that hospital floor. "You're serious?" she whispered. "I am." Her heart twisted. Min-jae had once walked away from everything that mattered. But now he was ready to set fire to the life he'd built to make up for it. She turned away, running a trembling hand through her hair. "I don't want them growing up in a scandal," she whispered. "They don't deserve that weight." "They won't," he said. "I'll make sure of it." She turned back to him, eyes fierce. "You do this and there's no going back. Not to your company. Not to the life you knew." "I already left that life the day I saw their faces," he said. "I just didn't know it yet." Jaiwoo's breath hitched. For a long time, they stood there. Two people tethered by pain, regret, and something else neither could name. "I don't know if I can forgive you," she said softly. "I'm not asking for that anymore," he replied. "Just a chance to protect what I should have protected from the start." The door creaked open then. Miho stood there, eyes wide. "Why is everyone mad?" he asked. Jaiwoo rushed forward and knelt beside him. "No one's mad, baby." "Are they going to take you away?" he asked Min-jae. "No," Min-jae said, his voice cracking. "No one will ever take me from you again." Miho looked at Jaiwoo. She hesitated, then nodded. Miho walked slowly to Min-jae and placed a hand on his. "You don't have to leave. Just don't make Amma cry again." Min-jae dropped to his knees, pulling him into a silent, tearful hug. And Jaiwoo stood watching, her heart raw and exposed. The past had roared back like a storm. Inside, the air was heavy. The hallways, once filled with children's laughter and the soft clatter of crafts and toys, had fallen into an eerie hush. The triplets were confused. Yuna kept asking why she couldn't go outside to play. Haun pouted about missing her Saturday puppet show. Miho said nothing at all, just watched Jaiwoo closely, sensing something deeper than what was being said. Yunmi had called a meeting. Jaiwoo sat in the tiny office, fingers locked tight in her lap, as Yunmi looked between her and Min-jae. "We can't protect you here anymore," Yunmi said gently. "They've traced this address. Someone inside must have leaked it. If we wait longer, it won't just be cameras. It'll be chaos. Jaiwoo's voice came out hollow. I never meant for this to touch anyone else. I know, Yunmi said, but it has. Jaiwoo turned to Min-jae. What now? He looked calm, but it was the calm of someone drowning slowly, each second measured. There's a house outside Seoul, he said. Private, secured, no press. I had it prepared, just in case. You mean you planned for this? I hoped it wouldn't happen, he said, but I wasn't going to risk your safety. Jaiwoo hesitated. Yunmi spoke gently. It's temporary, until things calm down. And if they never do? Jaiwoo whispered. Minji's gaze didn't leave hers. Then we build a new kind of normal. Together. That word still scared her. Together. But what scared her more now was the look on Miho's face when he saw the flashes of the cameras. The way he flinched. She had vowed to protect them, even from the truth, especially from it. She nodded. We leave tonight. The decision was made in silence. The shelter staff worked quickly. Clothes were packed, toys gathered. A few mothers cried as they hugged Jaiwoo goodbye. One whispered, "Thank you for showing me I could start over." Jaiwoo didn't know what to say, so she held her tightly. When the van finally pulled away under cover of dusk, the children were asleep in the back seat, bundled under blankets. Jaiwoo sat in the front beside Min-jae. The road stretched ahead of them like a question they didn't know how to answer. It was only when they crossed into the countryside, when the city lights faded behind them, that she allowed herself to speak again. Why now? She asked. Min-jae didn't look away from the road. Why what? Why didn't you fight for us before? He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because I thought love made a man weak, he said. And I didn't want to be weak. Not like my father was with my mother. She broke him. And I promised myself no one would ever have that power over me. He turned slightly, just enough for her to see the weight in his eyes. But when I saw you walk away, when I read your words, when I looked into Miho's eyes and saw myself, I realized I was already broken, just not by love, by my own fear. Jaiwoo stared ahead. I used to think I wasn't enough for you, she said quietly. That maybe if I were prettier, louder, more sophisticated, maybe you wouldn't have looked past me. You were always more than enough, he whispered. I was just too small to see it. They arrived late. The house was nestled in a quiet grove, hidden behind gates and trees. The interior was simple, clean, warm, welcoming. No marble floors, no sterile silence. Just a large living room, a fireplace, and a kitchen that smelled faintly of wood and citrus. Jaiwoo stood in the center of the room as the children slept upstairs. You've changed, she said softly, almost to herself. Min-jae stepped closer. I've had 3 years to regret everything. She turned to him. You're not the only one who changed. He smiled sadly. I know. I see it in your eyes. She looked away, heart racing. I'm not ready, she said. You don't have to be. He took a deep breath and looked at her like she was something sacred. I just want to earn the right to be in their lives, even if I'm never in yours. She nodded once. Then she left him there, standing alone in the quiet, while she went to check on their children. But the real storm hadn't passed. Not yet. 2 days later, Jaiwoo received a call from one of her old community center friends. I thought you should know. There's a statement going around. From URA. Jaiwoo's heart went cold. What kind of statement? She's saying you manipulated Min-jae, that you faked your disappearance, that you've used your children for attention and money. Jaiwoo sank to the floor. She's accusing me of what he did to me. She's furious, the friend continued. And people are listening. Jaiwoo hung up slowly. Her hands were cold. She walked outside, where Min-jae was fixing the garden gate. He looked up and saw her face, and dropped the hammer instantly. What is it? She's coming for me. His jaw clenched. URA. She's turning everything upside down. And she's doing it publicly. Min-jae stepped forward. Then I'll go public too. I'll tell them the truth. All of it. No, Jaiwoo said. Not yet. He stared at her, confused. Why not? Because right now she's fighting shadows. She doesn't know who I really am anymore. And that's our advantage. He stepped back slowly. You're not the same woman I left. No, she said quietly. You left someone quiet. You came back to someone who knows how to fight. And as she stood there in the middle of the fading light, wind brushing against her face, Jaiwoo realized something that shook her to the core. The television, left on, for background noise, suddenly broke through with a headline, URA's emotional interview. I only tried to save him. Jaiwoo's head turned. There she was, URA, draped in soft pastel, eyes glistening like a carefully rehearsed performance. Her voice quivered as she looked into the camera. I never wanted to come forward, she said, pressing a tissue to the corner of her eye. But I had to protect him from her, from this scheme. I've known Min Jae since before he was manipulated into that marriage. I watched him spiral after she vanished. She faked her disappearance, left him shattered. Jaiwoo stood slowly, the sound of her chair scraping the floor cutting through the room like a blade. Min Jae turned off the TV without a word. She's dangerous. URA continued from behind the darkened screen. She used those children as leverage. This is all part of her plan. Jaiwoo stared at the black screen, her reflection warped and trembling. She's trying to bury me, she whispered. Min Jae rubbed his hands over his face. Exhaustion etched into every line. She's trying to scare you into silence. She doesn't know me anymore, Jaiwoo murmured. But the world still believes women like her. Pretty, polished, crying on cue. I'll hold a press conference, he said immediately. I'll denounce every word. I'll tell them the truth. What I did, what she covered up. Jaiwoo shook her head. You can't. Why not? Because if you defend me, it will look like I need you to. And I don't. He stood slowly, walking toward her. You don't. I know that. But I need to defend what's right. She looked up at him. Then let me speak first. He hesitated. I want them to hear my voice, not yours, she said. If I speak before you do, they won't be able to twist it into a love triangle or a man stuck between two women. This isn't your redemption arc, Min Jae. This is my life. He lowered his head, nodded once. I'll make the calls, he said. 3 days later, Jaiwoo stepped onto a new kind of stage. Press hall, lights, microphones, rows of reporters. The tension was unbearable. Her palms were sweating. Her knees felt weak. But when she looked to the side and saw her children peeking from behind the curtain, Miho's quiet encouragement, Haun's wide eyes, Yuna giving her a thumbs up with all the confidence in the world, Jaiwoo remembered who she was. Not just a mother, not just a survivor, a woman who had been dragged through hell and returned carrying 3 souls in her arms. She took the mic. My name is Jaiwoo Kong, she said. And I have something to say. Cameras flashed. I did not fake my disappearance. I was abandoned. At 7 months pregnant, I was left on a hospital floor, bleeding. I gave birth alone. I nearly died. And for 3 years, I lived quietly, not because I was hiding, but because I was healing. Gasps rippled across the room. She didn't blink. I never asked for money. I never asked for attention. But when my story was shared, I realized how many women carry scars like mine. Hidden, silenced, ashamed. I chose to speak not for pity, but for power. Her voice cracked, just once, but she pressed forward. And now, I have 3 children who deserve a world where truth is not a weapon used against their mother. They deserve to know that dignity is not given by the media, it is taken back, by force if necessary. She stepped back. There was a beat of silence. Then someone clapped. Then another. Soon the entire room was applauding, not politely, but fiercely. Min Jae watched from the side of the room, a hand over his heart. URA watched from her penthouse screen and screamed. The next morning, Jaiwoo's speech had been seen by millions. A voice that refused to die. From hospital floor to hero, Jaiwoo Kong shatters the silence. And for the first time, the narrative shifted. People didn't ask about Min-jae. They asked how she found the courage. They asked how they could help. URA fired back with another interview. Tears, accusations, legal threats, but it no longer mattered. The world had seen the truth, and once seen, it could not be unseen. Jai was sat on the living room floor that evening, the children crawling into her lap, giggling, unaware of how their mother had moved a nation. Min-jae brought her tea. She took it quietly, then said, "Thank you." "For what?" "For letting me fight this my way." He smiled, kneeling beside her. "I didn't let you," he said. "You were always going to." She leaned against the couch, exhaustion taking over. Her head tilted back, her body aching from adrenaline and emotion. Then she whispered, "She's not done." He nodded. "I know, but now I'm not scared." Min-jae looked at her, voice low. "Neither am I." And in that moment, in the stillness of their home, where 3 sleeping children dreamed without fear, Jai-woo understood something deep in her bones. She had already won. She got up, pulled on a sweater, and stepped into the hallway. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. One new message. No sender name, just a number. "You can pretend to be a saint, but I know who you really are. Let's see what the world says when they hear your side of the story." From me. Why Jai-woo stared at it, cold crawling up her spine. She didn't move. Downstairs, the kettle whistled. Another message came. "You stole him. You used those children like a weapon. I made him. I won't let you ruin him." Jai-woo's fingers tightened around the phone until her knuckles turned white. Footsteps climbed the stairs. "Hey!" Minji's voice called softly. "Breakfast is ready." "I made." He stopped when he saw her face. She didn't speak. She simply held out the phone. He read the messages, eyes narrowing. "She's spiraling." Jai-woo nodded slowly. "And she's not going to stop until she burns everything down." He stepped closer. "I'll contact my legal team." "No," Jai-woo said. "No more silence. No more reacting. I need to end this." Minji's brows drew together. "What do you mean?" "I mean," she whispered, "I'm going to talk to her." He stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "Jai-woo, no. That's exactly what she wants. To get under your skin, drag you back into her war." "I'm already in it," she said, her voice calm but shaking beneath. "She's using your name, my face, our children. She wants control, and I won't let her have it." Min-jae grabbed her hand. "Let me protect you." "You are," she said. "But this I have to do myself." That afternoon, Jai-woo sent the message. "Meet me, 1 hour. No cameras, no lawyers, just you and me. You want my attention, now you have it." She waited in the old tea house near the river, the same one she used to pass every day when she was still invisible. The wind outside pressed against the windows. Inside, the air smelled of roasted barley and dried plum. URA arrived 30 minutes late, dressed in white like a weapon. Every detail sharp, every movement calculated. She sat across from Jai-woo without saying a word. Jai-woo poured the tea. "You wanted to see me," URA said first. "I have to admit, I didn't think you had the spine." Jai-woo folded her hands calmly. "No one ever does, until it's too late." URA smirked, but her eyes were cruel. "So, did you come to beg? Or threaten?" "Neither," Jai-woo said. "I came to ask why." URA laughed, short and sharp. "Why? You ruined everything. You think this is about a man? It's not. It's about legacy, about control, about what's mine. You were nothing, and now you stand there like you built something?" "I did build something," Jai-woo said, voice steady. "From the floor you left me on. From the silence he buried me in. From the pieces you thought would never come together." URA leaned in. "You're not the only one with stories to tell. I could ruin your image in a second." "Then do it," Jai-woo said. URA blinked. Jai-woo's voice never rose, but it gained weight with every word. "Tell them everything. Twist the past. Use your cameras, your interviews, your gossip. But know this, I won't hide anymore. I won't run. And every time you speak my name, Every time you try to bring me down, I will rise louder than before. Yure's hands curled into fists. Jaiwoo leaned forward. You want to be remembered? Then leave something worth remembering. Because all you're doing now is screaming into an empty room. You think you've won? Yure hissed. Jaiwoo stood. I'm not playing your game, she said. I'm raising my children. I'm living my life. And you're stuck in a chapter that's already closed. Yure rose as well, her composure slipping. You don't get to walk away. Jaiwoo looked her in the eyes. I already did. 3 years ago. And every step since then has been away from you. And with that, she turned and walked out of the tea house. She didn't look back. Not when Yure shouted her name. Not when the wind picked up. Not even when the first drops of rain began to fall. She walked straight home. Heart pounding, breath tight, but spine unshakable. When she opened the door, Min-jae was waiting, his eyes full of questions. She nodded once. It's done. He stepped toward her, brushing wet strands from her forehead. She won't stop, you know? She might not, Jaiwoo said. But I won't break. Not again. He looked at her like she was something he couldn't believe had ever been his. And maybe she never truly had been. Maybe she had always belonged to herself. Upstairs, the children stirred, voices echoing through the hallway. Miho called out, Amma, and for the first time in days, Jaiwoo smiled, because she wasn't afraid anymore. But inside the home Jaiwoo had rebuilt from the ashes, something else was stirring. Min-jae was different. Not just quieter or softer, he was humbler. He had gone from being a powerful man trying to reclaim what he lost, to someone learning how to simply be present. She noticed it in the smallest things. He didn't bring flowers. He brought bandages when Miho scraped his knee. He didn't apologize with grand words. He stayed up all night when Yuna had a fever, holding her hand and reading to her until she slept. He didn't ask to be called Dad. He just waited. And Jaiwoo, she watched, with caution, with care, but also with a heart that was starting, little by little, to exhale. It was one of those still evenings when the question came. They had just finished dinner. Jaiwoo was drying dishes. Min-jae was on the floor with the children, helping Haun color a picture of a dragon with pink wings and a crown. Yuna was pretending to be a judge, holding up cards labeled 10 tenths. Miho sat quietly, looking between them. Then he asked, Can I call him Appa now? The whole room froze. The silence was deep, raw, alive. Min-jae didn't move. His hand hovered over the crayon box, eyes wide, uncertain. Jaiwoo slowly turned around, dish towel still in her hand. Miho looked up, serious and small, his voice barely above a whisper. Because he doesn't go away anymore. Yuna looked at Min-jae. He doesn't lie. Haun pointed. He even does boring stuff, like folding laundry. Jaiwoo knelt down beside Miho. Her voice was tender, but laced with the weight of everything she'd carried for so long. Are you sure, baby? Miho nodded. I don't remember him from before, but I know him now. Min-jae swallowed hard. His chest rose with a trembling breath. I don't want you to feel like you have to, he said gently. Only if I want to, Miho said. Then, simply, he stood and walked into Minji's arms. Min-jae didn't cry, not at first. He just held Miho close, his hands shaking as though he was afraid the moment would vanish if he breathed too hard. But then, when Miho said, Appa, into his chest, the dam broke. Tears poured silently down his face. He mouthed something Jaiwoo couldn't hear. She stood back, hand over her mouth, heart thudding so hard it almost hurt. Yuna and Haun rushed into the embrace too, clinging to Min-jae like vines growing toward the sun. And Jaiwoo, she watched, not as an outsider, not as a judge, but as a woman who had fought so long to hold her world together, and now watched it open, imperfect, trembling, beautiful. Later that night, after the children were asleep, she stood on the balcony with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. The stars were scattered above like broken glass in velvet. Min-jae stepped outside, holding 2 mugs of tea. I still don't know what I did to deserve this, he said, voice low. You didn't, Jaiwoo replied, eyes on the sky. He looked down. She turned to him slowly. But maybe you're trying to be someone who deserves it now. He nodded, humbled. I didn't expect him to say that today, he murmured. I thought I'd be lucky if they ever saw me. They've always seen you, she said, just not the way you wanted. Today, they saw your heart. He handed her the mug. They stood in silence for a while. Then Jaiwoo whispered, What are you going to do now? He looked at her. She clarified, You stepped down, gave up everything. You're just here. Min-jae exhaled. I don't know. That's new for you. He chuckled softly. Terrifying, actually. She sipped her tea, the warmth spreading through her chest. You know, they'll need you to stay, not just visit, not just promise. I want to, he said. I want to build something with you, with them. She turned fully to face him. And if I'm not ready for us again? He didn't flinch. Then I'll still stay, as their father, as their constant. You don't owe me anything, Jaiwoo. I just want to be near the life I ran from. A tear slipped down her cheek. Unexpected. She wiped it quickly. I used to dream of hearing that, she admitted. Back when I was still bleeding, still begging. I should have come sooner. But you're here now, she said. And she looked at him. Not with the ache of lost years, but with the clarity of someone who knew her own worth. Knew what she would never give away again. I'm not the same girl who waited by the door, she said. I don't need to be saved. I know, he whispered. You saved yourself. I just want to walk beside you now. She didn't answer, but she didn't step away. And in that fragile space between pain and healing, a new chapter began to unfold. Not written in promises, but in presence. Not in fantasies, but in footsteps. And somewhere deep inside Jaiwoo's chest, a quiet voice whispered, Maybe love doesn't come back the same way it left. Maybe it comes back softer, wiser, and willing to stay. She sat up quickly. Then she heard the soft hum of voices downstairs. She wrapped herself in a cardigan and moved silently toward the stairs. Halfway down, she paused. Min-jae was sitting at the dining table with all three children, still in their pajamas. He was helping Miho stir something into a bowl, while Yuna organized spoons like a miniature hostess, and Haeun tried to convince everyone that her pancakes should have chocolate syrup and kimchi. Jaiwoo stood behind the wall and watched them, her eyes prickling. It wasn't perfect. The table was a mess. The pancakes were half-burned. Minji's shirt was stained with flour. But it was real. And for the first time in her life, Jaiwoo felt what it meant to be truly seen. Not as a burden, not as an inconvenience, but as the center of a world she had once been cast out of. Amma's watching, Miho said quietly, glancing toward the hallway. Three heads turned at once. Yuna squealed, Don't come in yet. We're making you breakfast. Jaiwoo stepped forward, smiling. I can smell it from upstairs. It's love-flavored, Haeun said with a grin. With syrup. Jaiwoo ruffled her hair and looked at Min-jae. He didn't speak, but his eyes were soft, softer than she'd ever seen them. She sat down and let them serve her the messiest, sweetest, most chaotic breakfast of her life. Later that day, after the children went down for a nap, Min-jae found Jaiwoo standing in the small garden behind the house, watering the little rows of herbs she had planted weeks ago. The wind brushed against her hair. She didn't turn when she heard him. He stood beside her silently for a long moment. Then, There's something I want to do, he said. She glanced at him. What is it? He pulled something from his back pocket. An envelope. I wrote a statement, he said quietly. A public one. I'm going to release it this week. Jaiwoo tensed. Another press release? Not about URA. Not about the company. About the truth. She took the envelope and opened it. As she read, her hands slowly lowered. Her heart beat louder with every word. It wasn't grand. It wasn't flowery. It was simple. Min-jae had written a letter to the public, acknowledging everything. The abandonment, the hospital, his failures as a husband, his absence as a father. But more than that, he praised her. He called her the strongest person he had ever known. He detailed her journey with admiration, with humility. He didn't try to paint himself as redeemed. He admitted what most men never could. I was a coward. She was brave. I failed. She endured. When she finished reading, her throat tightened. "You're not doing this to win sympathy?" "No," he said. "I'm doing it because people need to know who you are. Not the version in the media. The real one." She folded the letter carefully, then looked up. "You're not afraid of how they'll see you. I'm more afraid of how my children will see me if I don't tell the truth." Jaiwoo stared at him. That was when she realized something had shifted, not just in him, but in her. For so long, she had clung to pain like it was armor. But pain, when held too tightly, becomes a prison. She had been free for a while now, but today, for the first time, she felt ready to walk out of the last locked cell. She reached out and took his hand. It was warm, solid, familiar but new. "They'll ask questions," she said. "The world won't forget easily. Let them ask," he said. "This time we answer together." That evening they told the children. Not everything, not yet, but enough. They sat on the rug in the living room, the fire crackling softly behind them. Jaiwoo and Min-jae side by side, the triplets in their pajamas, sitting in a row like tiny judges. "We want to tell you a story," Jaiwoo began. "About us," Min-jae added. "Is it a happy story?" Yuna asked. Jaiwoo smiled. "It has some sad parts, and some scary ones. But we're all here now," Miho said quietly. "Yes," Min-jae whispered. "We are." And as they began to share pieces of the past, Jaiwoo saw it in their eyes. Not fear, not confusion, understanding, love, resilience, the things she had buried them in like roots. Later that night, as the house settled into silence, Jaiwoo stood by the window and watched the stars rise. Min-jae joined her, hands in his pockets. "You're not scared anymore, are you?" he asked. She looked at him. "I think I finally trust the ground under my feet." He reached over and brushed a lock of hair from her cheek. "And do you trust me?" She didn't answer right away, but after a long pause, she whispered, "I'm learning." And for them, for what they'd been, for what they'd lost, and for what might still grow, the letter went public 2 days later. It didn't scream, it didn't accuse, it simply spoke. Minji's voice, quiet, clear, and honest, reached every corner of the media that once devoured him. No drama, no embellishment, just truth. He acknowledged Jaiwoo. He honored her sacrifice. He claimed his guilt. And he accepted that forgiveness, if ever given, was hers to offer, not his to demand. Jaiwoo sat beside him on the living room couch when it aired. The children were asleep. Her fingers trembled around a mug of tea, but her eyes never wavered from the screen. When the final line came, "She raised our children in the light while I hid in the shadows. And I will never forget that." Her eyes closed slowly. Min-jae didn't look at her. He didn't need to. The silence between them was louder than any applause could have been. The world reacted, not all with kindness. Some accused him of posturing. Some called Jaiwoo manipulative. Some asked why she would ever allow him back into their lives. But most saw something else. The comment sections began to shift. "This woman is stronger than anyone I've ever read about." For once, a man owning his failure without blaming others. "I cried for her, and then I admired her." Strangers began to send letters to the foundation where Jaiwoo now volunteered. Survivors, single mothers, women who'd been silenced and buried for years. Jaiwoo sat for hours some nights, reading stories from people she would never meet. She wept with them, she laughed through her tears, and quietly, she began to write back. Min-jae would sit across from her at the dining table, helping Yuna with her spelling homework, glancing up every now and then to see her eyes glisten and her fingers move like she was transcribing pain into healing. Then one morning, the call came. A small performance organization, one that partnered with shelters and schools, invited Jaiwoo to speak at their end-of-year benefit. They had heard her story, watched her clip, read her essays. They wanted her to share her journey, not as a victim, but as a voice. Jaiwoo hesitated. She paced for hours that night while Min-jae tucked in the kids. When he came downstairs, she looked at him with panic in her eyes. "I can't," she said. "I'm not a speaker." I freeze. I choke. "I'm just me." "You're more than enough," he said softly. She shook her head, heart racing. "What if I fail? What if I fall apart on stage? Then they'll see what real strength looks like." She stared at him. "You think I can do it?" "I think," he said, taking her hand. "You already did." The weeks leading up to the event were a blur. She practiced in front of the mirror, in the car, whispering her words as she folded laundry or walked the garden path. Miho helped her choose her dress. Haun gave her hair advice. Yuna made a glittery sign that said, "Joe MMA," and insisted on sneaking it into the venue. And Min-jae didn't hover. He simply stayed. The night of the event, Jai was stood backstage, heart pounding like it would explode. The hum of the crowd on the other side of the curtain sounded like thunder. Min-jae stood behind her. "You don't have to be perfect," he whispered. "You just have to be real." She turned, her eyes glassy. "I'm scared." "I know," he said, "but every person out there is hoping to find a piece of themselves in you. Just show them what you already carry." The host called her name. The lights shifted. Jaiwoo stepped out into the brightness. Her heels clicked softly on the wooden stage. She looked out into the sea of faces, hundreds, maybe more. But her eyes searched until they found 3 tiny heads in the front row, and a familiar figure just behind them. She inhaled, held the mic, and began. "I was left on the floor of a hospital, 7 months pregnant, with no one to hold my hand. I delivered my children into a world that didn't know them, didn't care if we survived. But I did. And I'm here not because someone saved me, not because someone came back, but because I learned how to carry my own weight. I want to tell you about silence, about shame, about how it wraps around your throat and makes you think you deserved the abandonment. I want to tell you about healing, how it doesn't look pretty, how it isn't linear, how some days you still wake up and remember how cold the floor was. But mostly, I want to tell you about light, the kind you build with your bare hands in the middle of your grief, the kind that lives in your children's eyes, the kind that finds you when you stop waiting to be rescued and start walking forward anyway." The crowd rose to their feet in thunderous applause. Jaiwa's hands trembled at her sides. Her eyes scanned the crowd, and when she saw her children on their feet, clapping with all their might, screaming "Amma!" at the top of their lungs, her heart cracked open. And Min-jae, he didn't come on stage. He didn't take the spotlight. He stayed in the shadows,